Welcome to Alô Alô Português and Alô Alô Podcast, where you can learn Portuguese and get to know about Brazil and its culture. I'm Rafiza, and today we are going to talk about Tom Jobim. You're going to listen to my dears Thomas and Rebecca, who spoke about him perfectly. At the end of this podcast, I will leave you the link to my video, The Origins of Bossa Nova, where I explain you how this music genre was created. Let's go? Vamos lá?
Welcome back to Alô Alô Podcast from the channel Alô Alô Português.
It's great to be here.
Today we're diving into the world of, well, a pretty legendary figure, I'd say.
Definitely.
Antonio Carlos Brasileiro de Almeida Jobim.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
But most people know him as
Tom Jobim.
Tom Jobim.
Yeah.
Exact.
That rolls off the tongue.
It does.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what an artist, right? Composer, pianist, guitarist, arranger, flautist.
Singer. He did it all.
Everything. A true multifaceted talent.
Absolutely.
And, you know, he was just so central to Brazilian music.
Yeah.
Really the one who brought Bossa Nova to the world stage.
For sure. And it's not just that he popularized Bossa Nova internationally,
Right.
but he also managed to blend Bossa Nova with jazz, especially in the 1960s.
Yes.
Creating this really unique sound that resonated with audiences globally.
It's true. I mean, it really took off in a huge way.
It did.
And for us today on Alô Alô Podcast, we really want to focus on Tom Jobim as the father of Bossa Nova.
Yeah, let's explore that legacy.
That's right. So let's rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
So Antonio Carlos Jobim was born on January 25th, 1927 in Tijuca, a district in Rio
de Janeiro.
de Janeiro.
Yes.
And things weren't always easy for his family, right?
Right.
They had to move around quite a bit in those early years.
Yeah, before Tom even turned 1, they moved to Ipanema.
Ipanema. And back then, it wasn't the Ipanema we think of today, right?
No, not at all. It was like this huge, undeveloped, sandy area.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So different.
Yeah, they lived on a dirt road at first.
Oh.
Then, just a couple years later, they moved again to Copacabana to a place called Travessa Trianon.
Okay.
And, you know, Tom was surrounded by family.
Yeah.
His parents, his grandmother Mimi, his grandfather Azor, and his siblings Marcello and Yolanda.
So it was a full house.
A full house, yeah.
Yeah. And then in 1931, his little sister, Helena Izora, came along.
And she actually gave him the nickname Tom Tom when she was just a little girl.
I love that little Tom Tom.
It stuck with him.
It did.
Yeah, and it's amazing how a simple nickname becomes iconic.
Right.
Yeah.
Worldwide recognition.
And his formal education began in 1935 at Colégio Mallet Soares in Copacabana.
Okay.
And he was a bright kid, really bright. One teacher even said he learned to read and write super fast, like in 3 months.
Wow. 3 months. That's incredible.
Yeah, and this love for learning expanded to reading, too.
Oh, I bet he was a bookworm.
He really enjoyed Juca e Chico by Wilhelm Busch, translated by Olavo Bilac.
Oh, wow.
And he also loved Bilac's poetry and Monteiro Lobato's books.
I love that.
It's clear he had an appreciation for language and stories.
Yeah. And later on, his mom remarried to Celso da Frota Pessoa, a mathematician.
Yeah, and they moved back to Ipanema to Rua Almirante Sarach de Sá.
Okay.
But this time, back to Ipanema seems to have really influenced him artistically.
I can imagine.
Especially his memories of the beach.
Oh, the beach must have been magical for him.
He described the sand so vividly, like it's sang on the foot and made kuum kumum.
Kum kum kum, what a great description.
And the clear blue sea full of fish.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it paints such a vivid picture of his childhood.
It really does. And it wasn't just the beach. He had such an active childhood.
Oh, yeah, playing with friends, catching chacaré in the waves.
Catching chacaré, what is that?
It probably meant riding those small waves close to shore.
Oh, that makes sense.
And playing marbles.
Fun.
Fruit battles with almonds and patangas from the trees.
It sounds idyllic.
Yeah, really connected to nature.
And his mother, Nilza, she was pretty inspiring herself, right?
Oh, for sure.
She started her own kindergarten at home in 1938.
Called Escola Brasileira, which later grew into a secondary school.
Wow.
Colégio Brasileiro de Almeida.
And for the school, she got a Bechstein piano, hoping Helena would play.
Yeah, but at that point, young Tom was more into soccer and volleyball.
Ah, so the piano wasn't his first love.
Not quite, but you know, sometimes inspiration strikes unexpectedly.
It does, and it seems the piano did eventually capture his attention.
Yeah, around the age of 13.
13, okay.
After the beach, he would lie down near the piano in the garage, and he started experimenting with the keys.
And that was at the beginning of his musical journey?
It was.
I love that.
So he began taking formal lessons with a teacher his mom hired.
Okay.
But those only lasted about a year.
Really?
But from that point on, he was hooked.
I see.
And then a couple of years later, he met Newton Mendonça,
Okay.
who played piano, violin, and harmonica.
Another talented musician?
Absolutely.
I can only imagine those early jam sessions.
I know, right?
So cool.
And even with all the other things he was doing, like fishing and sports, you'd often see Tom around Ipanema playing his harmonica.
It sounds like music was really becoming central to his life.
It was.
But he did try a different path for a bit, didn't he?
He did.
He enrolled in architecture at the Escola Nacional de Bellas Artes.
Yeah. He wanted to make money to get married?
Practical.
Very practical.
But ultimately, his heart wasn't in it.
Nope. His true calling was music. He went back to piano studies with a passion.
Good for him.
He studied with different teachers and immersed himself in the works of Chopin, Ravel, Debussy, Rachmaninoff,
Wow.
Prokofiev, Stravinsky, and Villa-Lobos.
That's the impressive list.
Yeah, and you can hear their influence in his own music.
Definitely. And in 1949, he got married to Teresa Otero Hermany.
The reason he considered architecture in the first place, they first lived with his family and then moved to a tiny apartment in Bairro Picotto in Copacabana.
Tiny.
Yeah, they could only fit a quarter-grand piano and a small sofa.
Wow, that's small.
But hey, a musician's haven, right?
I guess so.
A year later, their son Paulo was born.
Okay.
And to support his growing family, Tom started playing piano professionally in Rio's nightlife.
Wow, so he was really hustling?
He was.
Making a name for himself.
He even started singing.
He did?
Yeah, there's this great quote. He said, "Para desafino u."
Para desafino you.
Which basically means, if someone's going to be out of tune, it'll be me.
I love that.
He said that about accompanying singers who weren't so talented.
He was committed.
Committed to the music, yeah.
That's great.
And in 1952, he got a job at Radio Club, which became Radio Mundial.
Okay.
But then he moved to Continental Discos, working with Joan de Barro, also known as Bergenia.
Braguin, yeah.
And this move was huge because that's where he met Radamés Natali.
Oh, wow.
Who was the official arranger for the label.
So he got to learn from the best.
The best.
That's amazing.
It was a game changer.
It must have been.
And his salary at Continental allowed him to rent a bigger apartment in Copacabana on Rua Francisco Ottaviano.
Okay.
So things were looking up.
Definitely.
And then at 28, Radamés invited him to be on this big Radio National program.
Oh, wow.
Cuando os maestros se encontran,
Cuando los maestros se encontran.
which means when the maestros meet.
Oh, that's cool.
And Tom presented his own symphonic piece called Lenda.
Lenda.
And even conducted the orchestra.
Wow. All with Natali's support.
Yeah, what a moment.
That's huge.
It was.
And throughout the 50s and 60s, he really earned the title of maestro.
He did.
With all his arrangements and orchestrations.
So many.
He was really becoming a big deal in Brazilian music.
He was.
And then in 55, he moved back to Ipanema to Rua Nascimento Silva number 107.
Fun fact, this address later inspired the song Carta ao Tom?
Carta ao Tom.
Letter to Tom.
Okay.
By Vinicius de Moraes and Toquinho.
Wow, I love how these places become part of musical history.
It's pretty cool.
And it was at this address that he and Vinicius started working together.
Yeah, he set Vinicius's lyrics to music for the play Orfeu da Conceição.
Orfeu da Conceição, which premiered in 56.
Wow, what a partnership.
Legendary.
I mean, truly.
And the 50s were a really productive time for him.
Oh, yes.
So many great songs came out of that period. Bossa Finado, with Newton Mendonça, Outra Vez Dindi, with Aloysio de Oliveira, and the beautiful Son Teus Braços with Vinicius.
Yeah, so many classic.
Each one a gem in the bossa nova world.
And his first big hit was Teresa de Praia,
which he co-wrote with Billy Blanco.
Right.
And it's interesting how that song came about.
How so?
It was commissioned by Dick Farney for a duet with Lucio Alves.
You were rivals.
Exactly.
Wow.
And Tom and his band backed them on the recording.
That's cool.
It was a huge success.
It was.
And it really marked his arrival as a songwriter.
It set the stage for the bossa nova boom.
Yeah, and then as the 60s began, his mom and stepfather moved to Poço Fundo.
Oh, yeah, a rural area between Petropolis and Teresópolis.
Wow, a world away from the city.
Totally no electricity, surrounded by mountains, trees, and a river with tons of fish.
It sounds so peaceful.
His sister Helena described it beautifully.
And this place became a real source of inspiration for him.
It did.
He visited a lot, soaking in the nature.
And it's where he wrote Aguas de Março.
No way.
Which Leonard Feather called one of the 10 most beautiful songs of the century.
That's incredible.
It is.
A testament to the power of that place.
Absolutely.
And then 1962 was a massive year.
A huge year.
The release of Garota de Ipanema
The Girl from Ipanema.
The Girl from Ipanema.
And The Encontro Show.
Encounter.
With Tom Anisha's Ron Gilberto and Os Karaokas.
Wow. All those legends together.
At the Al Bon Gourmet nightclub in Copacabana.
I can only imagine the energy in that room.
Magical.
And there's always been this mystique around Garota de Ipanema.
Right.
People think it was written spontaneously at Bar Veloso.
Yeah, but it's a bit more complicated than that.
Really?
Yeah. Tom wrote the melody at home for a musical that never happened.
Oh, wow.
And Vinicius wrote the initial lyrics called Menina que pasa.
Menina que pasa, meaning?
The girl who passes.
Okay.
Also at home.
Interesting.
And those lyrics were different, more introspective about feeling tired and uninspired until he saw this girl walk by.
So she was the muse.
She was Heloisa Enaida Pinheiro Meneses Pais Pinto.
Wow, what a name.
Known as Helo Pinheiro.
Okay.
She was 19.
19.
And she would pass by Bar Veloso every day to get cigarettes for her mom. And she just captured Tom and Vinicius's imaginations.
She became the embodiment of Ipanema.
Exactly.
With the new lyrics, Garota de Ipanema became a global phenomenon.
It did.
Within 2 years, it had 40 recordings by different artists.
Including Nat King Cole.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a timeless song.
It really is. In 1962, also saw Tom perform at Carnegie Hall in New York.
Right, that historic bossa nova concert.
It was a turning point for the genre and for his international career.
It introduced bossa nova to a much wider audience.
Well, if you're interested in learning more about that era,
yeah,
we actually have a video on our channel called The Origins of Bossa Nova.
Check it out.
It's fascinating.
It is.
And after that concert, Tom stayed in New York till mid-63.
Yeah, performing, collaborating.
Doing his thing.
He even performed with Jerry Mulligan.
Oh, wow.
And he started working with American lyricists to translate his songs into English.
Smart move.
It helped him reach a broader audience.
And his ties to the U.S. continued to grow.
Yeah. In 64, he went back for a longer stay, this time on the West Coast in L.A.
Okay.
Which further solidified his presence in the American music scene.
It's amazing how he was able to bridge these two worlds.
He was a true innovator.
And then this crazy thing happened in 66.
What was that?
Frank Sinatra called him.
Frank Sinatra?
The one and only.
No way.
Yeah, he called Tom at a bar.
At a bar?
At Veloso.
The same one that inspired Garota de Ipanema.
Exactly, and he invited Tom to record an album with him.
Wow, can you imagine getting that phone call?
I would have fainted.
I know, right? So they made this amazing LP.
Francis Albert Sinatra and Antonio Carlos Jobim.
And they even did a TV special together.
Which won an Emmy.
Wow.
That collaboration really launched Tom into superstardom.
It cemented his status as a global icon.
Absolutely.
Now, shifting gears a bit.
Sure.
In 77, Tom and Teresa separated.
Okay.
And the next year, he started a relationship with Anna Beatrice Lantra, a photographer.
Yeah, and they moved into a house on Rua Perry near the Botanical Garden.
Oh, wow. And the Botanical Garden became a real haven for him.
I can see why.
He loved walking there, taking in all the birds and plants.
It's like his love for nature was always there.
Always.
A constant source of inspiration.
And the awards kept coming.
Yeah.
In 82, he won the Shell Prize for Popular Music.
That's huge.
And that was just one of many.
Like what else?
He won the Sharp Prize for Best Album and Best Song for Passarim in 88.
Passarim.
Yeah, and the Order of Rio Branco.
Wow.
And he was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in the U.S.
Amazing.
And got an honorary doctorate from the Universidade Nova de Lisboa all around 1990.
What a list.
He was a true legend.
It's wonderful to see him get that recognition.
It is.
And then in 84, he moved with Anna and their son, John Francisco, who was born in 79,
right,
to a house on Rua Serra Vilela in Alto Jardim Botanico.
And this house was special.
Oh, yeah. He was really involved in the design of it.
Yeah. His son, Paulo, and Maria Elisa Costa, who was Lucio Costa's daughter, designed it.
Wow.
And he had very specific instructions.
So,
He wanted the bathrooms facing west to avoid humidity and the bedrooms facing east to get the morning sun.
Interesting.
And he was adamant about high ceilings.
High ceilings, why?
He joked that a good ceiling is one where you can ride a horse and celebrate the Republic while taking off your sombrero. I know, right?
That's hilarious.
And the location was amazing.
It must have been.
Views of Ipanema Beach, the lagoon, Corcovado, Sugarloaf Mountain.
Oh my gosh.
And surrounded by wildlife, pacas, armadillos, monkeys, hawks, all kinds of birds.
It sounds like paradise.
It does.
A little slice of heaven.
And in 87, they had their daughter Maria Luisa Helena.
Okay.
And then they spent 3 years living in New York, starting in 88.
Okay.
But they eventually came back to Rio.
And in 92, he got a beautiful tribute from the Mangueira Samba School.
Yeah, their carnival theme was Se todos fossem iguais a você.
Se todos fossem iguais a você.
Which means, if everyone were like you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was a special moment.
And he returned the favor?
He did.
By composing Piano na Mangueira.
His last collaboration with Chico Buarque.
Wow, what a legacy.
A beautiful exchange.
But sadly, that same year, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer.
Yeah, but he didn't start making music.
No, he didn't.
He performed at Carnegie Hall and in Jerusalem in April and May of 92.
Wow.
And then he had surgery in New York. But during his recovery, his respiratory problems got worse.
Those had been bothering him for a while.
And he ended up spending a lot of time in New York for treatment.
And sadly, he passed away there in December of 94.
At the age of 67.
Way too young.
It was a huge loss.
It was.
He had 2 heart attacks.
And there was a huge outpouring of grief in Brazil.
Yeah, his wake was held at the Botanical Garden in Rio.
Oh, wow.
Like, the circle was complete. It shows how much he meant to people.
And he really captured the essence of Rio in his music.
Yeah, one of our sources said, no one sang Rio de Janeiro like him. No one translated the city's beautiful curves like him.
His music is so intertwined with the city. It's part of its soul.
And his melodies and harmonies are timeless.
They are.
They'll continue to inspire for generations.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this exploration of Tom Jobim's life and music here on Alô Alô Podcast from the channel Alô Português.
Yes.
It's clear that he was more than just a talented musician.
So much more.
He was a cultural ambassador, a visionary composer who broke down genres.
And the father of bossa nova.
The one who brought Brazilian music to the world.
And his legacy lives on.
It does.
We encourage everyone to explore his music.
Yeah, dive into his discography.
There are so many gems to discover.
And we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
What are your favorite Tom Jobim songs?
What are your thoughts on his music?
Share them in the comments.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and sounds of Antonio Carlos Jobim.
And we'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The power, the beauty, the emotion of Tom Jobim's music.
It transcends time.
It will continue to move and inspire people around the world for years to come.
It will.
It's a timeless gift.
A true gift.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time.